Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hello and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zanker and I'm your host. I'm always looking for how we can work smarter and not harder. And, along that lines is finding great tools that help us to shortcut our way into better processes and habits and help us. Tools help us. Systems and tools are really important in supporting us and being more productive. And so Jessica Bledsoe is here today, and she is a serial entrepreneur. Like all entrepreneurs, right? They just can't help themselves. She's a dog mom. So if we hear the dog barking, right, that's all just part of it. Might be mine too. She's a part-time I don't even know what this is. Vanlifier. We're going to find that out. And the co-founder of Pavr, a time management app that integrates with your Google Calendar. So those of you who are Google Calendar people, this is specifically for you. And she's passionate about helping business owners and busy people to reclaim their time so they can live more and work less. So we have that in common. Hello. So Jessica, welcome to the show.
Hi, Penny. Thank you so much for having me.
So what was that I missed that I couldn't pronounce there? What is that?
Van lifer. So we travel in a van, live in a van part-time, and travel around the country as much as we can.
Oh, that's awesome. So that gives you the freedom to be wherever and do your work from wherever you are.
Exactly.
Very cool. So do you have internet on there and everything so you can set up your own little office there?
Yeah, so we obviously have hotspots on our phone, and then we got a different provider for the data on our iPad, which we can also use as a hotspot. And then we have a booster that's inside the van that should boost our signal. And we are on the wait list for one of those Starlinks from Elon as well. So we're patiently waiting those to come out because it is difficult reception, especially at a lot of the national parks and things.
Right. Well, that's awesome. And I guess your dog goes with you since you're a dog mom. Is that right?
Yeah, we have two dogs, and it's a golden retriever and a lab mix. So they're both pretty good sized dogs, but we build out a little extension at the end of the bed and they travel around with us and they absolutely love it. And we love having them with us. We love to travel and be able to bring the dogs because we love being able to bring them with us now and they love hitting the road.
So just curious, this is a little off the top of Pavr, but we'll come on to Pavr. Do you feel that having that freedom about, traveling, do you feel that makes you more productive in a sense? How people have that tug of war between, with balance and wanting to do all these things with their life, but never getting to them because they're working all the time?
Yeah, I think it definitely makes me be more aware of what I'm working on and what I'm working towards. And, when we're in the van, we're still working, but we're certainly not working as much as we are when we're, stationary, and I can be here in my office, and we kind of work in sprints so that we can get a lot done in a little amount of time, so that when we're on the road, we're just kind of doing maintenance and just kind of maintaining things. We're not doing a ton of development or pushing out big updates. We learned our lesson on that one pretty quickly. So yeah, we try to get as much done as we can while we're stationary so that we don't have to work as much while we're on the road. But there's certainly still things that have to get done and things that we need to be aware of. So we try to dedicate at least a few hours every day just to kind of check in on things and make sure that things are running smoothly. But if we need to take the time off because we don't have internet or we're traveling between places, then we have the flexibility to be able to do that.
I guess what it might do is help you to plan more effectively, right? It's like, this is the lifestyle you've chosen. So it means that you have to plan in order to make it work, right? And maybe that's the difference, is that, a lot of people have this lifestyle where, it's they're home all the time. And so they forget to plan, or they make excuses why there's no time to plan. And so that key thing that saves them so much time and helps them work smarter, they never actually sit down to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. We plan in quarters. We really, we We have big goals that we create every year, but we really plan in quarters and try to map out exactly what we're going to do. And this is a method that I teach people. It's my intentional calendar mapping method, but it's really getting really intentional with what it is you're trying to do within that 90-day period and planning for that. And so we know when we're going to take our big, long, 4 to 6 week trips. So we can plan around those and kind of plan accordingly and fit that into that map. But then there's also room for some spontaneity there too. Like a couple of months ago, we had a chance to maybe see the Northern Lights up in Minnesota. So we saw that, and within a day we were loaded up in the van and headed north. And so there's some flexibility that's allowed there. But if we know that we're going to be on the road for an extended period of time, then we certainly plan that into that quarterly planning as well.
Awesome. So is that where Pavr came from? Did it come out of your lifestyle and your need and you made it for yourself kind of thing?
Yeah, so we were small business owners for several years, 8 years, and we worked with a lot of other small businesses, but they were open, 9 to 5. And so we really had to be available to them during those times. And we worked on site with quite a few of them, meaning we were in their office. And we realized that just wasn't going to be the lifestyle that we wanted to lead forever. And we wanted more freedom and we wanted more flexibility. We wanted to be able to be location independent for extended period of time and be able to actually turn our phones off when we were doing that. So that was something that we realized, and we just kind of put some intention behind that. And we had no idea how we would get there. And then we got this idea for the app because we just kept seeing this problem come up over and over again where people just needed more data out of their calendars. Like, we're putting all this valuable data into our calendar and there's not really a great way to get it out. So we kept seeing that with our clients. We were seeing it with ourselves. We were looking for a solution and not really finding one. And we were just like, hey, what if we just, what if we made this ourselves? And so that's what we really set out to do. And, obviously realized that if we were able to create the app and that became our job instead of the service side business, then that would give us that freedom that we were looking for. So we set the intention, kind of got that spark of inspiration for the app and really just dove right into it.
Fantastic. So what kind of data goes in and what kind of data comes out, and why is that important?
Sure. So, when you think about when you're putting something on your calendar, most of the time you're putting obviously what it is in that, that subject line. You're putting where you're going. If it's a location, you're meeting with people, you're inviting them to those calendar events. Those are all the things that we already put on our calendar when we're creating an event. With Pavr, you can now add additional fields. So if there's additional data that you want to put onto that calendar event, maybe you want to put a PO number or an invoice number, or you want to tag someone else that's not necessarily attending the event, but needs to be aware of the calendar event, you can do that. But then you can also add categories and labels to the event. So you can tag it as, this is a meeting, or this is time that I'm actually working on a project, or this is whatever it might be. You can put categories on it, and then you can get even more granular with labels to say, okay, this was a team meeting, or this was a client meeting, or this is a networking meeting, whatever it is. And then you can export all of that data now out of the calendar and into a Google Sheet. And so it does two things. It actually dumps it all into a spreadsheet. So you can see all of those event details as far as who you were with, the date, the time, the duration, all of that. But then it also creates a really valuable report using those categories and labels. So you can see exactly how much time you're spending in meetings, exactly how much time you're spending on client work, however you set it up, it'll tell you how much time you're spending in those categories and in those labels, and really gives you a valuable look at your day, your week, your month, whatever time range you want to run that report for. So you can really start to make some better decisions about how we're spending our time. Because if you look at that report and you spent 20 hours in meetings this month, well, maybe that wasn't the best use of your time. And you can really start to evaluate as you start, going into the next month, how many meetings you're going to say yes to, and just make better decisions, because we just get so caught up in that day to day and just saying yes to everything that comes our way. And then we end our quarter and realize that we haven't accomplished our goals. And so this kind of gives you a way to constantly be evaluating and revising based on that data.
Right. Okay. So, there's a lot of great time tools out there, right? Like Clockify is one that I use. It's free. I don't use it for myself because, well, sort of, but I do a lot of time studies with clients and things like that. Or, right, there's like a ton of those. So tell me why, because I know you've got the answer to this. Why is Pavr, how is it different? And why would one choose to use Pavr over one of those other types of apps that link with your Google Calendar?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's obviously no shortage of time management and productivity apps. But for us, we really wanted to create something that was directly on the calendar. It wasn't an add on, or it wasn't like a link to the calendar. It wasn't just pulling data from one place to the other. It was actually on Google Calendar itself, because that's really where it starts. And we're already putting so much information into our calendars already. And if rather than doing that context switching of switching to a different app to put all this information in, if we could just go ahead and capture it directly on the calendar event, it just reduces the amount of time it takes to be able to do that. So it makes your data more accurate, but then it also makes, it's a tool that you're already using. You already know how to use Google Calendar. I don't really have to teach you how to use Pavr. It's pretty intuitive to Google Calendar, and you're pretty familiar with that interface already. So it just cuts down on the amount of time it takes to learn how to use it and to make sure that you're using it consistently, because that's people's number one struggle most of the time, is that you install all these apps and then you just forget to use them because you're just not used to it. You don't have the habit yet.
Yeah. And really, we don't need another app to open, right? I think it's smart that it's within, because I think that's where the consistency lacks, right? Is that it's another tool that people have to go in to sync and check and so forth. So I think that's a definite benefit to using Pavr. You mentioned being able to export it out to a Google Sheet. Is there I'm big into visuals. I could see the benefit, right? I'm a public speaker. It would be great. I just had to go through this huge thing to create a list of every single speaking engagement that I had, because I needed to submit it for certification or something like that. It would be so great to just have the system to be able to go, here it is. But, when it comes to visualizations, if I wanted to see how many I did in each city or different things like that, is that a part of the tool, or is that just something that you would do in Google Sheets that you would make happen?
Yeah, so it gives you a visual pie chart based on the categories and the labels. If you wanted to do it by city, for example, you could always set that up as a category or a label, or you could go into the sheet itself and then filter just by those cities and create a chart based off of that if you knew how. But just by default, it gives you a really great visualization and a pie chart format. There's 2 pie charts that shows you one for categories, one for labels. It tells you exactly how many events were on your calendar during that period, how many hours there were. So it gives you a lot of really good, at a glance data that you can kind of work off of. And then you start to tweak things based on, okay, what is it that I exactly want to see at a glance? And then you can start setting up your calendar that way.
Right. I know this is a podcast and most people will be listening to this, but this is also going to be on YouTube. So maybe you could just pop it up on your screen and have us take a look visually at what that looks like. So for those of you who are listening to this and you use Google Calendar, or even you don't even need to use Google Calendar, because this is also teaching you a system and a way of thinking and a way to organize. And that's a big word for this year, is to get organized for me in terms of making things just easier because I'm better organized. So I encourage you to go back, whoever's listening, to look at this and get some ideas of how you can visualize and make things work for you. So here it is, Pavr.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and create a report.
Okay. So right within,
it's launched over here on the sidebar.
I'm just going to also moderate a little bit for the people who are just listening. So within the screen itself, Pavr takes up a little sidebar, allows you to make a report, and you're able to choose within this report builder a date, sequence, and then create your chart.
So once you put in your date range, you just create the report. It'll take just a second. But what you'll see pop up here is you'll have just a sort of a snippet here that you can see. But then if we click on open a report, it's going to actually open it in the sheet.
Oh, I get it. So you don't have to. I was thinking, I got to do some work. I got to open the sheet and export and import. So this is all done for you. You see,
this
for those of you who aren't seeing it, you actually see it in your calendar, which I love, right? I don't actually have to go into the sheet in order to see it, but that just gives you more flexibility once you click on it and then it opens the sheet. That's really cool.
Yeah. And so you'll get these great kind of visuals here. And then if you click into the other tab for calendar entries, you can actually see it in a full kind of spreadsheet format as well. So very just, cool. A few clicks of a button there and you've got what you need.
Very cool. I like that. Thanks for sharing that. So that's awesome. I can totally see how that works. I am not using Google Calendar as my main calendar, but for that reason, I might switch to using my Google Calendar as my core calendar, because I really like to be able to sort things and see things quickly at a glance within the same app. So like it. So tell us, you said, because there is a system behind it, right? So your thought process created this, and you mentioned something about, the intentional calendar. Could you talk a little bit about that process and how you take a step back and look at your planning within your calendar?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a pretty simple kind of 4-step method. And the first step is always just getting really crystal clear on what exactly your goals are and what success means to you. I think especially for entrepreneurs, it's really important to have a really clear vision of what success means to you. And I say that because when I started my first business, I was working towards this vision of success that I ultimately realized, it was almost 5 years into my business, that it's not even the version of success that I wanted. Like I thought that I had to have this big office full of a bunch of employees and hundreds of clients. And I realized that I didn't really like having a bunch of employees, and I didn't want to be stationary in one office forever. And I was like, why am I working towards this? I really, at that point, sat down and really kind of redefined exactly what success meant to me. And that was asking myself a lot of questions, not just about how much money do I want to make? Do I want to have those employees or not? But it was like, do I want an office? What does that office look like? Like, how am I showing up as the most successful version of myself, and getting really clear on that? And, at that point I was working 40 plus hours a week, probably closer to 50 or 60 hours a week. And I didn't want to do that. Like I became my own boss. Yeah, because I wanted freedom. Like I thought that, being my own boss would give me freedom and more than 2 weeks of vacation a year. And at that point I was struggling to even take like 2 days off at a time. So I think just getting really crystal clear on what we want that to be, and, how many hours, how many days do you want to be working, and really trying to understand how to plan out our days, our weeks, and our months ultimately in that quarter, and then creating time. So their implementation intentions is what I call them, which I totally ripped off from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. He's really the one that taught me that. But we create these implementation intentions where it says, I'm going to work on this goal, on this day and time in this location. So I know if I set a quarterly goal for myself, like one of my goals for this quarter was getting booked on 12 podcasts. Well, it's like, that's going to be something that I need to work towards every week to make sure that I achieve that goal. So, every Tuesday from 10 to 11, I'm working on researching and pitching and doing all of that. So that's setting that implementation intention. But then it's also making time for the other things, because there's still clearly other things that need to get done. That's not just your goals. We have our day-to-day kind of work that needs to get done. So I have, Money Monday that's on my calendar every Monday, where I go through my QuickBooks account and I kind of look at my AR and my AP for the week, and just make sure that like my finances are set up, and we have emails that need to be responded to. So those are all things that I map out on my calendar so that I know that I've already created time and space to work on them. And I'll create time for reactive tasks as well, where, there's going to be last minute things that pop up, right? Like there's always going to be people that are just like, hey, do you just have a quick minute for a phone call today? Or could you possibly meet with me tomorrow? And they're just throwing out times, and you're saying yes, out of either you do need to meet with them, or there's just some sort of obligation to do that. And you're letting them now take control of your time and your calendar. And instead, if we just go ahead and make time for those things, it could be, I'm sorry, I'm not available at this time that you requested, but I do have this space available, and see if you can kind of fit it into that, which just gives you back control of your time. And you just get better at saying no to things, because you can look at your calendar and be like, I've already got a really busy week this week. If I only want to work, 30 hours this week, I really can't say yes to this. So it just gives you more intention behind your time, and going ahead and mapping that out on your calendar. So you're ensuring that your work is getting done. You're ensuring that those fires are going to get put out, and you're ensuring that you're making time to work on your goals, so that we don't get so caught up in our day-to-day that, another 3 months goes by and we didn't accomplish what we set out to do.
I think that's a huge thing when you talk about, scheduling reactive time. I want to talk about that, because a lot of people, they get this idea of time blocking and they're like, yes, I'm into it. And they block every single second of their day, right? Leaving no reactionary time, barely time to go to the bathroom in between or have lunch. And so we need those pockets of space to catch up with, something that went awry. Like you said, an opportunity comes up that we want to say yes to, because it's a really great opportunity, or also the structure to help us to see how valuable that we don't have the time for that, but we do have the time for the other things. Where was it that I was recently, I think it was a TEDx that I saw, or something that I recently saw, that when people tell themselves they don't have the time, that it has the same effect on their psyche as depression. I swear, I recently saw that and I thought, wow, that's really powerful, because when we overbook ourselves, right? Then we get caught up in this like scarcity mindset of I don't have the time, right? I don't have the time. I don't have enough time. You hear that always, right? From different people, especially entrepreneurs that are wearing many hats. And so I think that's interesting that we close ourselves in, eliminate that flexibility. And like you said, that feeling that we have control. And so there's a fine balance there.
Yeah. And I think that it's easy to start being resentful of your business or of the clients that you're working with when you're doing that, because you're just constantly saying yes to things and filling in every single moment of your calendar. And you realize that you don't have any time for yourself, or then you start having to say no to things with like your friends and your family. And there's things that just really matter to you that you're not able to do because you said yes to something else. And so when you show up for that thing and you're there instead of where you'd really rather be, then you're just really resentful of that time that you're spending there. I experienced that firsthand. I was in a position where like I was just saying yes to everything because quite honestly, I had bills to pay. And so if somebody was willing to like give me money to do something, I was saying yes to it. But I was just really resentful of that work because it wasn't the type of work that I wanted to do. It was taking time away from what I would rather be doing instead. And I just realized that was not sustainable for me, if that was what being an entrepreneur and owning my own business meant, then I might as well just go out and get a job with someone else and I could at least have some consistent pay and consistent hours, because this wasn't it. And then, just making that decision that I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to be really intentional with my time and with who I'm working with. And I think that we think we have to fill in all of these hours in our calendar and we think that means being productive, but I would disagree. And I think that giving yourself that white space in your calendar is so important, because I think too, when you give yourself time to just kind of rest and reflect, that's when we get our best ideas. And that's when we can really kind of, set those intentions. And it's okay to do nothing. You don't have to fit yourself into that box. You really do have the decision-making power to decide how much and when you're going to work and what your days are going to look like.
As an entrepreneur, definitely. Right. And that, what kind of work do you do when you're feeling resentful? Right. I mean, you're
exactly,
you might as well just cut down the quality and the passion and all of that. So at the end of the day, it really wasn't worth it. I've been there as well. For sure. I think many entrepreneurs have been there. And I think there are a number of people who are in the corporate world who listen to this podcast as well. I think that happens. The same thing happens in corporate, is they say yes to things that they shouldn't say yes to, that are keeping them from the things that are most important in their work, that determine whether they get a raise or not, that may take up that extra space that they need in order to show up creatively for the core part of their work. And they feel like they can't push back. Again, I always come back to the element of control, is that we feel like when we feel like we have to say yes, or that it's an obligation, then we lose that aspect of control that we so desperately want.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I find with a lot of our Pavr users that aren't entrepreneurs, they are in a corporate world or just employed by someone else. They're using Pavr kind of in defense of their time, so that they can run these reports and they can say, look, this is what I've been spending my time on. I really don't have the time to do, whatever it is you're asking me to do. I have one customer that I spoke with that was like, my boss is just pulling me into meeting after meeting after meeting. And then he's getting upset with me when my work isn't getting done. And now I've been able to, run a report to show him like how many meetings he's actually pulled me into, and being like, 6 out of 8 of these meetings, I didn't actually have any action items. You just wanted me to be there, basically just to hear whoever else talking. And so if you wonder why these other things aren't getting done, it's because I don't have the time. And so we see that a lot, people kind of using it in defense of their time to show where their time is going.
So is there a link between other calendar types and Pavr? Like, could I use Zapier or some other tool to bring in from Apple Calendar, or especially Microsoft, right, is probably a big one that corporate is using?
So right now we don't have any sort of webhooks or anything that it would integrate with something like Zapier. However, if you are, as long as like Google is like your main calendar, and so you're pulling that information into Apple or wherever, and then it's pushing that data back into Google, you could always go in like once a week, once a month, go through and just really quickly add those categories and labels. We have some shortcuts that we just released where you can just change the color on the calendar and it'll automatically apply, the category. You can put a hashtag in the event description and it would automatically apply the label. So there are some things that you could do within your Apple calendar that would then push that back to the Google calendar, and it should keep all that data. Microsoft, on the other hand, we're not integrated with at all, but if it's something you're interested in, we do have like a wait list on our website where you could tell us you're interested in it for Microsoft. And once we've kind of gotten enough, attention there, then that's something we can definitely put on our roadmap.
Great. No, for me, I mean, it's the Apple side. So I'll definitely be looking at that. That's an easy one because I already share the calendar. So that's super easy. Awesome. Well, thank you. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and there's a lot of nuggets and a really, really smart, great tool there that you've got. Where can people find out more information about you and about Pavr and download it?
Yeah. So if you want to follow me, I'm always on Instagram at Just Bledsoe. For Pavr, you can get that at getpavr.com. That's GETPAVR.com, or directly from the Google Marketplace. And if you're interested in learning more about that intentional calendar mapping method, I have a 3-day challenge that you can sign up for. It's totally free, but it'll take you through kind of the step-by-step process so that at the end of the 3 days, you have that process in place and you can start getting that map on your calendar. And that's really going to give you the best data when you go to run your reports from Pavr. So you can get that at getpavr.com/challenge.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That's great. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you're like, I really want to share that, or you should have asked me because I've got this great thing to share with the group? Any last words before we wrap up?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is just give yourself some grace. It's really difficult when you're creating a new habit of managing your time and being intentional with your time. And it's okay if if you've got your entire day mapped out and you wake up and you're like, I'm just not feeling it today. Just pick one thing that's going to set you up to be better tomorrow and do that one thing and take the rest of the day off. I want to tell people to give themselves some grace when they're trying to create new habits and trying to be intentional with their time and with how they manage their time, because it's a process that you learn. And it's just one of those things, the more consistent you can be, the better you're going to be for it.
Absolutely. And different strokes for different folks, right?
Yep.
One tool or one method might work for one person and not another, but give it enough time to stick with it to see if this is one that can work for you. So
exactly.
I think that's the key thing I see is that people start and download so many different tools and they don't give it enough time, don't give it 3 months to really feel it and work with it. And like you said, work through that process to see if that's going to make a big difference for them or not.
Yeah. Make time to make time is what I always say. Give yourself a few minutes every day to make time for the rest of the day and really take a look at how you're spending that time so you can make some better decisions, because that's how we get lost, is we just don't make the time to make the time.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Jess. I appreciate you being here and look forward to working with Pavr more.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And thank you all for being here. Make sure that you subscribe, that you leave us a comment, because we're really looking to build up the channel. I'm also going to be starting a new short format. So in addition to these great interviews, I'm going to be doing some short 2 to 5 minute topic oriented talks, so that easily consumable, but leaving you with a great nugget so that you can put that into practice, or at least get yourself thinking in a different way. So thank you all for being here. My name is Penny Zenker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.